And sometimes, and I always bring it down to, if you do the right thing, something good's going to happen. Obviously, it has to be for the greater good. And I add that because often people will say, well, I want to win the lottery. That doesn't work. That doesn't add value to anything. That's not how it
Because you
works.
don't learn anything with linear work. Like, what do you learn? You probably learn how to spend money the wrong way.
As you know, studies shows that people that win the lottery goes in a worse financial situation anyways. But you're absolutely right. When you have faith, when you do the right thing, or when you build, and you always move forward with a plan. I'll say with a plan, not with your head down and just saying hoping or wishful thinking, because unfortunately in business, sometimes you've got to make a decision of stopping the business.
Welcome to the Break Free Podcast. I am your guest, David Mancella. As everybody knows, this podcast is to look for freedom in your life, to break free into the life of your dreams. And to do that, we interview people that are already there, amazing people that found a way to be in freedom. And today, we have with us again, Guy, brother, welcome back to the show. I know we didn't have enough time to talk last time, so that's why we're doing the second episode. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, David, once again. So I guess it must not have been too bad, our first conversation, for you to invite me a second time around.
Oh, no, it was profound. Like first time, just to recap, we talked about happiness and about your happiness project and your book. And we didn't get a chance to talk about your business life. And if people want to be free, they can do it within having a job or having their own business. In your case, you chose the path of the entrepreneur, which is the hardest thing I believe a human being can do in their professional life. It's a lot harder to create your own income than to just have a paycheck. Having said that, though, having the paycheck is not easy either, especially if you want fulfillment in your life, because you can actually be still free doing having a job, but you need to be at the right place and you need to be adding value and you need to have the right team around you, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Adding value, that thing that sums it up. If you give value to people, you'll always be rewarded for it, be it financially or just for feeling good about what you're doing. But you're absolutely right. And talking about freedom, as important as it is to you, being an entrepreneur, sometimes you can get stuck a little bit because there are going to be a little bit of challenges. But it's freedom from to freedom to. So yeah, freedom is really important. And one of the freedom for me, it's always been about the financial portion of it. If you can make it happen and be patient about it, that alleviates some of the challenges that you might have later on in life. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's entrepreneurship is awesome. And thank you, because you're making people much more aware of what entrepreneurship is. So thank you very much to you.
Oh, no, my pleasure. So let's go back in time. What did you go to school for?
Actually, I went business administration. I studied that in Michigan. That's where I met my wife, in business and actually marketing. My dad had been in banking for all his life, 40 some years. So numbers have always been interested, but business to me was that was it. It was about freedom. It was about being an entrepreneur, starting my business, and making sure that whatever I can give back to the world, try to do that. So that's what I did. That's what I went to school for.
So you did business administration and marketing, and then did you ever get a job, or you jumped right into your business?
No, actually I did. My first job was from a marketing research firm. It was called Kennedy Research. I no longer know if it's still in business or not, because Dick Kennedy at that time was probably in the 70s already. So that's probably where my entrepreneurship started, because seeing the business and working for him was a lot of fun. So that was my first job. And thereafter, I went into financial business. So I was an advisor in the United States with a New York firm. And actually from there, I came back in Canada. We used to live in Michigan in the United States. I came back in Canada, but because we had a death in the family. And they had a business, which was a coffee roasting plant. So had nothing to do about what I was thinking about doing. But it was a family business, and probably, as you know, when you lose a child, and our niece passed on when she was 16 months old from leukemia, generally the businesses go on a downward spiral. It kind of go bankrupt. And finally, we were able to turn it around, and then actually kind of expanded that business into a coffee break service business as well. And for the next 9 years, I was in business about growing a coffee, which at the time, David, I did not even drink coffee. I guess today, apparently I know a little bit about coffee, even though I've been away from the business since 2000, because I sold the business in 2000 because it was not quite what I wanted to do, and
but
went
you still
back.
made it grow. That's amazing. So you got a bankrupt enterprise, and you put all your effort into it, apply your skills, and grew it. That's incredible. I didn't know you were in the coffee business.
Yes, it was. It was been for 9 years. So the coffee roasting plant, we sold it after 5 years. I've been able to turn it around. So we didn't make that much of a profit, but we did make a little bit of profit. And after that, we just expanded into coffee break service. And then in 2000, and it always goes back about what you were saying at the beginning about adding value. The coffee break service was my expertise at that time, which I thought it was, but it was okay, it was coffee. But then they wanted me to start to add vending machines, chips and all, and then some sandwiches. I guess when you give service at one time, it kind of explodes or expands. And that's not quite at that point where I wanted to go. So I sold the company in 2000 and joined as a partner a financial firm. And I went back to what I used to do in the States and became a wealth manager.
In Canada?
Yeah, in Canada, in Montreal.
Did you have to get retraining or pass any other certifications?
Yes, actually what happened is that in 1995, when I started that coffee break business, the three founding fathers of the firm that we sold to a bank eventually, but in 1995, they asked me to join them. So what I did, I had to redo my licenses because the one in the States and the one in Canada were a little bit different. So I did my licenses, passed them again, but decided to expand the business, the coffee business. And then for 5 years, they became my client on the coffee side. And then in 2000, when I decided to sell, they just said, well, you still have your licenses, which I'd kept them since 1995 at that time. And I just said, okay, it's time to move on and go into the wealth management business side. And that's what I did.
Incredible. From a coffee entrepreneur to a wealth manager, they couldn't be more far apart, which explains one thing that I want the audience to know. This is a beautiful golden nugget. When you are an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur in all the areas of your life, not only in one. Now, that doesn't mean that you should do any business, because you also have to get fulfilled. And you can only get fulfilled by following your passion. What do you love doing? What are your purpose in life? Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 businesses to figure that out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it all started, because of a death in the family, because actually, like I said, I was not even drinking coffee. I was actually, learning and it expanded. But I think the business is one thing, but the human side of it is always, and I always bring it back because it's like, yes, you need to know how to manage a business. You need to make a profit. If you don't make a profit long-term, it won't work. We know that. But if you concentrate about adding value and you concentrate on for me, the right reason is the human side. What can I do to be a better server for you? That's what I'm trying to do. So in business, coffee, people drink coffee. So we always try to make the best coffee possible. Then in wealth management side, it's always, again, what can I do to be a better service? What can I do? Because people don't know a lot about their personal finance, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's always about trying to put yourself in other people's shoes and try to make it happen. And I guess entrepreneurship, to me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Another thing that I heard that I think is very valuable is that you don't have to be afraid to go back and redo your certifications, redo your exams, study a little bit more, because I know so many people, especially in Canada, that they're driving a taxi and they were a doctor in their country.
Yeah.
What a shame. And just because they don't want to go back and do whatever they need to do to get certified in Canada. Now, for me, I was a computer scientist already. I had my degree in Guatemala. In fact, I wrote my first commercial software in 1989. I moved to Canada in 1991 and quickly realized that I wouldn't get a job as a programmer back then. You needed to get the certification in Canada. You need to get a diploma in Canada. So what did I do? Went back to school for another 3-4 years and did it all over again. But you know what, though? Think about it. At the time, for me, it seemed something stupid. How can I go back and learn the same thing that I know already? But then you know what? My dad is the one that told me, 4 years in your life is nothing. And you're in your 20s. What are you talking about? What are you going to do with your life if you don't go back and do what you love? So I did my retraining, and guess what? It actually was awesome because it not only helped me the new technologies that were coming up, but also gave me the Canadian culture. I learned how to become a Canadian during college. Beautiful. Right?
It's interesting.
And now look at me now. Imagine if I didn't go back to school.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, you're absolutely right. They stop at the obstacles and they see, do I feel like it? It's going to be an effort, because I'm sure, was it an effort for you to just say, okay, I've got to go back to school? You had to put the effort in no matter what. And I think that's when a lot of people get stuck. They don't want to put the effort. They see an obstacle, they see a mountain, and then they stop and say, oh, it's too complicated. And increasing our skills, still today, I read quite a few hours every single morning. I get up early. I guess that's one of the routine that I have. I'm very fortunate. I go to bed early, but I get up really early. That morning routine is very important. Reading, increasing your skills. Going back to the coffee business, what happened is that we hired a chemist. And by hiring that chemist, he made us become better at what we were doing. So I think it's important as an entrepreneur to always look up to mentors or coaches to make sure that we can learn from them in order to grow faster. So let's not be afraid to learn, go back and increase our skills. And the day I think that we don't grow or that we don't increase our skills is the day that you should question yourself. Should you still stay in business or should you do something else?
It's true. And I think it's a lifelong exercise. You're right. You have to always keep constantly updating your skills. And the whole purpose is to add value, to keep adding more value. Yeah. And it's funny because we were talking about this before the podcast. The only way to actually feel happy in life is when you have a sense of gratitude, like you said in the previous podcast. And that sense of gratitude will inevitably make you want to serve, make you want to focus on everybody else's needs before your own needs. Absolutely. And that's where fulfillment comes, which is kind of like a contradiction. But that's the way it works.
And it does. And at the end of the day, the end result, there's twofold. The first one is it makes you feel great because you've been helping other people. But at the same time, the profitability goes with it. If people would be patient enough in business, making sure that you've got all the business plan, that you're planning correctly, that you're surrounding yourself with the right people, having the right clients. We all know that everybody knows what needs to be done in business. It's just a matter of making sure that you're patient. And I find that often in business, people are not patient enough. They want immediate results with the least amount of effort. And sometimes it happens, but in business, I call it luck. And luck is important in business. However, just make sure that you're patient enough. Just make sure that your vision makes sense. Put people in place, have people surrounded, be surrounded by people that are better than you. And when you do this, I think the sky's the limit at that point.
Such a beautiful insight too. The pain of success is less for me anyways, to the pain of boredom and staying stuck for the rest of your life, isn't it?
Oof, that's really powerful, David. And when let me ask you this question: when you tell that to other people around you, what's their first reaction?
Oh, I'm afraid. What if it doesn't work? I'm comfortable. My paycheck is just enough. I'm comfortable, but I'm miserable. That's what I hear most of the time. I'm comfortable, but I'm miserable. Sometimes I hear people say, I'm happy, I'm comfortable, I'm adding value, and my paycheck is perfect, and they're happy, and it's beautiful. That we need people like that too. But what I'm talking to is the people that know that there's more they can do. But it requires faith. It requires that leap of faith where you have to make that step. And you have to give up your job and your comfort zone and maybe your corner office and go get your first client or get a loan to start your first business. And then you go to the end of the month and you're thinking, where am I going to get the money to pay my mortgage?
Yeah. And sometimes there's two people that those that get stuck and don't move forward, and those that just says, we're going to do it. But I like what you're saying about the pain of success, or the fear of success is worse than the fear of failure, or the fear of boredom, or the pain of boredom. I totally agree with you, because the what if, I always say that what if syndrome. What if I would have done that? What if this? I always say there will always be what ifs in life. How about if you analyze the situation and then focus not on the obstacles, not on the challenges, focus on the solution. And we've all heard about, in every challenges or obstacles, there's an opportunity. Even for me today, I have to remind myself sometimes to just say, yes, what's the opportunity? Because I do get stuck at the obstacle and the challenges sometimes. For whatever reason, I'm having a bad day and I focus on the glass being half empty. No, there's always. And if I ask you the same question in your business, in all the businesses, hasn't there always been a great opportunity through the toughest challenges that you've had?
Of course, always. I've been in the verge of bankruptcy at least 3 times. The one time, I'm going to tell you, the worst time was in 2013. I took most of the year off to go into a leadership course because I realized that I wasn't a good leader. By the way, if you want to be an entrepreneur, even a one-man shop, you have to be a great leader. So you better learn how to become a good leader, because that was killing my business. I wasn't a good leader. I was a good architect. I was a good technical person, but I was a horrible leader. And so I went. But the cost of that is that I stopped selling. And I still had a big payroll to pay, and my clients started to finish because I run a software company and we build products for other companies, software products, but they have a beginning and an end, so I had to keep constantly sell. I stopped selling because I needed to change myself. But as I was learning how to be a leader, I went back to my faith. I think I mentioned that before. I'm a Christian, so I went back deep into the Bible and what God wanted for my life, and my faith grew dramatically. But my income started to decline because, again, I was doing this postgraduate degree and I was traveling to Boston and all these places to get, do exams and do my expositions and all that. And December comes, and we usually for December we do payroll a week before so people can have their bonuses and their money to buy their Christmas presents. And I remember it was like February, it was like December 15th, and we didn't have enough money in the bank to do payroll. And my office administrator, she comes, and she's the one that pays the people. She's like, David, what are we going to do? And she started crying, like, we don't have money to do payroll and it's Christmas. But my faith was so strong. I knew that I was doing the right thing. I just had graduated in November, so I was back to the office every day. But again, I was with my Bible. I was in prayer. I knew that this was the Lord's will for me. And I told her out of faith, a miracle will happen and you'll see we're going to have enough money to pay everybody. But with her eyes, she only saw the empty bank account. She saw the maxed out line of credit. She's like, David, you can tell me all day long that we need to have faith to pay people, but I don't see where, and I need to do payroll in 3 days. And was the first time in my life where I had this sense of peace and freedom throughout this huge mess. I knew something was going to happen.
Wow.
The next day, she calls me. I wasn't in the office. She calls me, David, you won't believe what just happened. I'm like, what happened? We got 2 checks in the mail from the government. Not only covers our payroll for this month, but also covers the payroll for next month. And I'm like, but what is that money from? Like, why is the government giving us all this money? And she says, well, remember 4 years ago, we filed for the SR&D tax credits? I'm like, yeah. Remember you filed 2 years? Yeah. But I forgot about it because I thought they were declined because they never talked to us in 4 years. They sent the 2 checks the day after, 1 day before she needed to run payroll.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you talk about peace, and it's such a great story. And I know how strong your faith is, but that's why I'm with you about the faith. It is there. There is something powerful out there. There's something greater than us. And sometimes, and I always bring it down to, if you do the right thing, something good's going to happen. Obviously, it has to be for the greater good. And I add that because often people will say, well, I want to win the lottery. That doesn't work. That doesn't add value to anything. That's not how it works.
Because you don't learn anything with learning a word. Like, what do you learn? You probably learn how to spend money the wrong way.
And as you know, studies shows that people that win the lottery goes in a worse financial situation anyways. But you're absolutely right. When you have faith, when you do the right thing, or when you build, and you always move forward with a plan. I'll say with a plan, not with your head down and just saying hoping or wishful thinking, because unfortunately in business, sometimes you've got to make a decision of stopping the business if it's going against the wall or you're going to hit the wall. But yeah, have faith based on a plan, based on the greater good. And if you do this, good results should happen most of the time.
You know what my spiritual leader tells me, my pastor? He says the walk of a person in faith is with 2 legs. One leg is yourself, doing the plans, going and being strong and courageous, and the other leg is Jesus, is the Holy Spirit guiding you and giving you that thing that people call luck, right?
Yeah.
You know what happened to me after? So I had enough payroll. We went on Christmas vacations. Everybody was happy. I had enough money for the second month, but that's it. In January, somebody that I had worked for when I was an employee was calling me, trying to find me, and he finally found me on LinkedIn. He was a senior VP for a large laboratory, and I built a laboratory management system for him in this huge company when I was a leader in technology. And he says, David, I moved jobs. This lab their LIMS system is horrible. We really need your help. Please come, let's talk. I go and talk. To make the long story short, they have been my biggest clients for the last 10 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you know what? And with that, I created another plan, and I created better marketing, better sales. But I became the leader that the company needed. I built something called culture, which I thought it was just a sign in the wall with a couple of inspirational messages. No, I created culture in my business for the first time in my life.
Yeah, and right? culture is it. I think that's at the end of the day, when you think about it, often we're going to talk about building a community. Culture is past building a community. Culture is it. If you can create that culture, and you're absolutely right, and congratulations. And I know how great of a leader you are. And yeah, as a leader, if you can create a culture, then you know you've got a business.
Yeah, this is true. And it's culture. You know, people tell me what is culture. I said, it's not a billboard. Culture is a set of values in which your people, the employees, can make decisions when the boss is not looking. And that's all it is.
That's what it is. But it's so true. It's funny because we know someone that took a year off, a sabbatical. And that's what I did. I went back to the office and I told them in a meeting after a couple of weeks vacation, I said, the ideal situation is the day that I'm not there for an entire year, the business still will continue to grow. And the only way to make that happen is you need to create that culture. And that they need to talk to Guy or to David or to X, Y, and Z. If they can talk to anybody else but David or Guy, we've got a business.
Yeah. Incredible, right? Because that filter system, if people actually know their culture and they know the values, so that when they make the decisions, they pass it through the value system, and if it aligns, then they make the choice, even if sometimes it might not work, that choice. At least they know they went through that filter. So we use culture for hiring our clients, because we hire our clients, not only our employees. Our clients have to go through the filter.
Yeah.
For us, it's gratitude, growth, and contribution. We gotta grow, we gotta be thankful first, and then we gotta give back. Yeah. If our clients don't share those values, we don't work for them.
Yeah. It's so interesting.
Then we're gonna be clashing, right? Because they may be too money oriented, or maybe, I don't know. For example, like, it's very seldom for me to work for anything that has to do with war or with armed forces. I have done armed forces work when I know it's bringing peace, when I know it's preventing wars. To give you an example, right?
No, but you're right. If with those values, and you're right, often people say the client, the customer is always right. No, I don't believe that a client is always right. The client will make everything happen for the client for sure. But you're talking about your three values. I bring it down to one. I always say respect. We have to respect one another internally. We need to respect our clients because they're human beings. But on the other side, clients have to respect us. Mm-hmm. We're not perfect, but we're trying our darndest to bring always peace of mind to 100% of our clients. So the fact that nobody's perfect, we're trying, and whenever there's a correction or a mistake to be made, we're going to correct it. But it has to be both ways. They have to respect us as we will always respect them. And if you have that, you can work out many issues, many challenges with respect. And I bring it down to three words for our business. I always say, and I've copied some from somebody that but to me, for years, it's always been, it has to be simple. The business has to be simple. And I bring it down always, simple does not equal easy. Simple means that we need to put the effort. And the effort means about what we're talking about earlier, increasing our skills, making sure that we're always up to date to whatever information that needs to be known. So simplicity for us is the number one thing, because if we have a simple business, it's going to be simple for everyone.
Yeah.
The second one has to be fun. Really, if it's not fun, life is long. So even at work, we need to have fun. That doesn't mean sometimes we're not intense and we're not working and we're not laughing all the time, but it has to be fun. And the third one has to be profitable. I switched it to lucrative because I looked at that definition of lucrative. It was a little bit wider range than profitable, but I'll bring it back to simple, fun, and profitable. If a business is not profitable, it will not grow. It cannot grow and it will not survive. So, but it has to start with respect. And then those three words. And if you do this, at the end of the day, your odds and the probabilities of success, in my opinion, are fairly high.
What a beautiful concept. Respect, simplicity, and profitability.
Yeah, I think so. In business, and there's no shame to be profitable, and there's no shame of saying at one point, I don't think we can do this for you. We might not be the right business for you. But I will make sure to find you someone, if I can, that will be the right fit for you, because not all clients are right fit. And that's the first meeting that we always do. It has to be, people say, well, you don't have an agenda. I said, I never have an agenda. The first meeting that I meet, I just chit chat with people when I get to know them. Once I understand them, within a few minutes, probably you're the same. You can see if there will be a fit. If it flows, the conversation. If it flows, after that, it's gonna be simple and fun. And after that, let's move forward and then concentrate on what we call we've got a prosperity blueprint. That's what we call it. But then we're going to go through the processes, and the processes are really important in business to make sure that everybody create a culture, but that we move forward and make sure that we're all on the same wavelength. So that's what's fun about being an entrepreneur. That's what's fun about creating freedom, it's a very challenging thing. And I like when you said freedom from the get-go. It's a challenging thing, especially for an entrepreneur, to just say, my objective is to create more freedom. It is feasible. It is some work. I'd say hard work probably, but it's fun when the end result happens and you succeed. So,
for me, you're completely right. It's with this podcast alone, somebody can just come up and start a new business. Let's talk about the fun part and the freedom part that you mentioned. How can somebody be having fun in a job that they don't like?
Rudely honest, they can't.
They can't, right? So it's true. So again, entrepreneurs, if you focus only on the money, if you're choosing a business because it's going to be 10 times more profitable than another, if you don't like it, if you're not having fun, who cares about the money?
Correct. but correct. And you were saying, how can it be feasible? To me, it's impossible, because it's tough to separate the business side and the personal side. And I've always promised my wife and I that we would never discuss. She's worked with me in 3 different businesses, but we always promised each other that whenever we would be at work, that would be work. And when we would be at home, it would be home. We would not bring work to home. If you're unhappy at whatever you do, this will reflect when you come home. I don't care what anybody says. You will not open the door with a smile. You'll be still hanging about that frustration. And the more you stick around, the more frustrated you're going to be, and the more painful it's going to be in your relationship. So in my opinion, first thing, change job, change business. Yeah. But make sure that you bring that happiness, that fun in whatever you do, because there will be challenges and very hard challenges. But if you at least appreciate and you love what you're doing, it's going to be a little bit easier to go through those challenging times than when you're not having fun, because it will just not be fun anywhere around you anyways.
Yeah. And you touch a great point. Having fun doesn't mean it's going to be easy, right? In fact, the fact that you like what you're doing is what's going to make you and sustain you in those very hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why there's always going to be hard times? So I have done over 125 episodes.
Yeah.
Every single successful entrepreneur has had terrible times in their business. Mm-hmm. And they know that they might not be the last times. Yeah. Because now I know why. The only way to upgrade your life, the only way to become a better human and keep adding more value is through hard times. Correct. Hard times come because you may not know what you need to do in that precise moment, because the challenge that you took upon yourself might be bigger than your capabilities. Mm-hmm. So the hard time challenges you to grow and step up to that level so that you can conquer that battle, so you can go to the next level. But there is always going to be a next level. Always.
and the more your business grow, the bigger the challenges. And that's why those people that go through challenges and conquer them, because I love the word that you use, conquer them, then the next time that type of challenges will happen, it's not a new thing. you've lived through it. You've already got some experience about it. So it's going to be much easier the second time around. And the more you grow, the more challenging it will be, the more difficult it will be. But if you stick around, you become stronger. As you become stronger, you grow faster. And as you grow faster, everything else looks more rosier.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because the second thing I wanted to talk about is freedom. This podcast is called the Break Free Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because the podcast came out of my book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. And people have this mistake and they think that it's like how to escape your 9-to-5 job. And it's not about that. It's how I went out of a corporate jail into a jail that I built myself, that was 10 times stronger and more horrible as an entrepreneur. But talking back about freedom, people might be thinking, how can you be in freedom if you are always facing challenges? And for me, that's where the freedom is. Freedom is a choice that you make every day. That no matter what happens, you're going to stay in gratitude. No matter what happens, you're going to keep learning. No matter what happens, you're going to grow your faith. Trusting that you can deal with this. That even if you fail in this challenge, you can take it on again until you go through and you pass it. And isn't it incredible? I don't know if this has happened in your life, Guy, but when I hit a challenge and I fail through the challenge comes back. Mm-hmm. And it comes back until I finally conquer that challenge and then I go to the next level. Has that happened to you?
Oh, I think so. I think my smile says enough. Yeah. And one of the things often what would happen is that instead of focusing on solutions, I would focus on the challenge of the obstacle, the dilemma. Instead of just I would repeat, I said, oh, why does that happen to me? Why is this? I'm so frustrated. I'm doing good things in my life and this is happening. Instead of just saying, okay, this is a challenge. So what are the solutions to conquer that challenge? It's really a mindset. I always bring it back. If you can, change your mindset, it will make a huge difference, because the same challenge for one versus the other, the end results might be very different. And the one that has a positive mindset, look how much quicker normally they get out of that challenge or that obstacles or that difficulties. It really is. So yeah, but breaking free is not easy. It's not easy. but that's why I think your podcast is so important, because that awareness, being aware that it's not easy, but bringing entrepreneurs on your podcast, David, congratulations, because you help us get better by learning from the experience of other people. I always said, my dad always said, and he's still living at 92 years old, he said, there's two ways to learn in life. Maybe I'm repeating myself, but from there, I went on and said, there's three ways to learn in life. First one is from other people's experience. Mm-hmm. Second one is from your own experiences. And now, because of my oldest daughter, I have a little bit more wisdom. Our children make us grow. And now I see there's a third way. It's a combination of both. People that will only learn from their own experiences will have a little bit harder time. It'll take a little bit longer. Yeah. People that just learn from the other people's experience, sometimes they could go on the wrong path. So let's learn from both experience, a little bit of both. And that will make you go much faster. And faster in business, often, I would say, is really good.
Yeah, always really good if you have the right mindset, like you said.
Correct.
Right? Another thing I think that I heard for the audience, positive mindset. Doesn't matter how hard life gets. If you think that you may not survive one more day, be positive. Yeah. Because if you turn yourself into being a negative person, you already lost the battle.
I think
you go into the ring with a negative personality, a negative mindset, you're already done.
No, you're absolutely right. And that doesn't mean that you cannot have for a short period of time, but a very short period of time, that negativity to live it. When you said, why, coming from Guatemala, why do I have to go back and restudy what I just already learned? Look how much wisdom your dad had in saying, you know what, it's just a few years out of your life. Why don't you do it, David? You could have said no. Instead, you chose yes. Yes is a positive mindset. You did it, you went through it, and look at you today. I guess you're doing okay, right?
I'm doing pretty well. I am blessed for beyond
Yes.
belief,
Yeah.
blessed beyond belief. You
Yeah.
know, the whole freedom thing is, I know it's very hard. Breaking free is very hard. I'll give you an example. First, I thought that to break free into my life was to have financial freedom. So I worked everything that I could into get some financial stability. I got there, but I still had a lot of work. So I'm like, okay, so I don't feel free yet. I need more time. So I learned how to create a self-managing business.
Wow.
And then when I got there, I'm like, now I'm free. And then 2 weeks went by and I got so bored and so unchallenged and so blah, that I thought, this is not freedom. That's when I finally realized freedom is a daily thing. And the only way to achieve freedom is to keep adding value to others.
Absolutely.
Is to put others before you.
Absolutely.
And the funny part is that the other two things will keep growing. Your wealth will keep growing. The freedom of choosing whatever you want to do in your day will keep growing. So now, instead of saying freedom of time is having nothing to do, because a homeless person has freedom of time, isn't it?
Correct. You need to grow as an individual. So the freedom of money gives you choices. Freedom of time gives you choices. But you
Yes.
definitely need to grow. And as you grow on a daily basis, you can never get bored.
Yeah. And so the freedom of time, at the bottom line, is having the freedom to choose how you're going to bless other people with the time that God is giving you.
Absolutely.
You stop doing that, you die. You actually literally die. Do you know these statistics? People, especially male, that retire and they start playing golf and they don't add value. How many? Like, I think the majority die within 5 years.
That's correct. Even in the first year, it's a big challenge. And that's what I tell my people. Whenever they say, I'm getting ready to retire, I say, great. I say, what are your hobbies? That is my first question that I ask all the time. Oh, I didn't think about that. Okay, you're not ready to retire. And I have to be brutally honest with them. Or the other people that will tell you, oh, I'll golf when I retire. I said, you'll golf 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year, you will golf. No. You need hobbies. You need to have other things in life. And yeah, that'll be volunteer, that'll be whatever. You need to have activities. You need to make sure that you have a well-balanced life in many different things. Too much of a good thing, too much of a chocolate cake, you get sick after a while.
Yeah, and those hobbies have to be focused on adding value to others.
Correct.
Otherwise it's the same thing, right? My dad, he retired at 72. He didn't want to retire. 72.
Mm-hmm.
And then he learned how to make his own beer, and then how to make his own wine. And then he already was a carpenter and a plumber. So what he ended up doing is helping myself and my brother get our houses in check. And he was like serving us, basically, on keeping our houses up to date and our business places, as a hobby.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, and people ask me, we're talking about retirement. People often ask me, said, oh, do you want to get retired? I said, actually, I decided not to. And I've got two examples. One is a mentor that I didn't have a chance to meet yet, but I better hurry. Obviously, everybody knows about Warren Buffett in the financial field, but his partner is probably one of my mentor, one that I respect the most, which is Charlie Munger. And Charlie is still working in the business now. I don't know if he's still working, but he's related to Berkshire Hathaway. But Charlie Munger is 99 years old. Today, he's 99 years old and still active. So work doesn't kill us. If you find your passion, whatever it is, doesn't have to be keeping your business, but if you find your passion, you'll live longer.
Definitely, because you're going to keep adding value. Guy, thank you so much for your time. Another hour went by so fast. I tell you, man, I can get at least 10 golden nuggets from this interview. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you the question again. Billboard question. What would you write in a billboard if you had access to the one that is on the busiest highway on earth? And it doesn't have to be the same thing that you said before.
I'll try not to, but I would definitely, again, say, think of others and be more charitable. Be the most charitable person that you can be. I think if you do this, you're going to have succeeded in life.
And you will find freedom in life.
And you will
if you think of others and you're charitable, you're going to feel the freedom.
Absolutely.
The true freedom.
David, I must thank you one more time. It's always a pleasure, my friend, to be talking with you. And we'll definitely see each other soon.
Thank you so much, Guy. Have a blessed rest of the week. And this is your home. You can come back whenever you like.
Thank you.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.